Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I have Andy and Jared going to be talking about Kali Linux installing, and then also while we're doing that, we're going to, like HR. We could just kind of go over had a stream last time. Andy, do you want to just kind of give a brief, sector?
Of course. Looking at ways to make most of my days I looked at the way we do it essentially. So that's hopefully that's what we're gonna. The cloud is the cloud. So whether you do it on and other places too.
Let's just kind of do, looking to expect once we've set up an account and got into
what AWS is and how it gets started. Amazon.com is web presence. They do need making that backend available to other businesses, storage and compute. And now there's more than 200 the red team side for us.
Okay.
How to get started on AWS. Just to get an account, create an AWS account. Step after that is to confirm most of their services always be free. For the first 12 months. It will be free for the task that you want to do. It adds up. But the pricing on it,
50 if we just set it up and forget it for a month.
An image that does not require called at AWS. And so hit configure. Gonna give it maybe.
And Kali in and of themselves, pieces of.
Sometimes you need to run Kali just to run a tiny.
If you're doing something that is of applications or you need like a GPU run.
So in this case, if you're during an engagement, and then you want to
somebody who is just kind of starting to understand how to virtualize, Kali could be a perfect
too, especially once you get into some of those computers in a programmatic way. You can
so it's a lot of third-party virtual machine, fully available, fully customizable, up $0.046. That's the shut it down and then don't look at it again.
A lot of configuring that you're going to do each time you spend not looking at it for a week. It's not going to be a tremendous
on a professional sense. The reasons for that is results, but have a lot of that results that may conflict at X time. Information that was kept is clean, so you do want to deploy Kali instance.
Will that kind of?
I think the free tier is going to depend on the interesting things, more power and more CPU, and up for it. Amazon will let you know that Amazon's going to tell you, hey, this no longer.
Usually the free tier is the lowest instance on Amazon. Fire up the Kali instance, the free instance. You let it run for a couple of days. You shut it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which might be under that 5 cents an hour.
Got it. That makes
full storage to a server, that kind of thing. Like keep in mind if you're doing regular and know exactly what resources are running. So CloudFormation stacks just allow.
So before I start talking into CloudFormation Medium, which is 4 gigs of RAM in 2 with all the different services that Kali can, so on and so forth, but on a free tier. So that's something a lot more powerful than what you would get from.
People can just like reference, go to the marketplace.
What we're gonna do, that's why it scares a lot of people, because we'll ask you a lot of questions that think of it as a setup, a Kali instance. It will grab all the information and it's predictable. We'll make a couple of CloudFormation template available.
Picking it up and then you're copying those settings. So the next time you're doing it.
The human element in most deployments is where you'll see a lot of step. You might forget, I forgot to inspect via infrastructure as code and CloudFormation Kali instances. You have to pay the bills.
Yeah, and then the cool thing about it as well, because the issue with Amazon is then you shut down your Kali instance, file size a little bit bigger, and then you end up paying for that. appealing because you don't have to worry about
anything like that.
Of course. And then it's not exactly going to be like running a VM. People who are using Kali in the cloud are actually going to just use the command line, some commands. And while we're doing that, we can talk about a few other things. Sweet.
Okay, it might be easier for y'all to.
Like certifications today, what might be in my time in the industry. Got my biases.
I'm just give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up let's do this. Perfect. So now we got a full screen. Certifications are absolutely needed in a lot of instances. However, I've always felt that having real world experience trumps certifications. In the HR department, who's kind of handling, like the hiring and firing of, however, some of them are, kind of pricey, right? Just anybody from getting in, right? Like you've kind of,
it definitely money out or is not connected as well. Like with a business, certain business, SANS is definitely one that Andy and I have some experience with, but it costs you about $8,000 just to walk in the door. So it can be very troublesome if you're like new. You kind of have to find ways in. There are programs that you can join with SANS, in particular, a student helper or a TA, and you sit in and you help, right? And there's also some certifications that are certified ethical hacker. I like right after I got my, and I remember like calling Andy. I don't even think I told him, and they just gave me that. So you have to be careful. Experience is king.
Yeah, it would be great if they just, we'll judge your merit on that. But the reality is, decide who, went to conferences, who really knew your stuff, and especially with COVID now, like conventions and stuff running again. I think Defcon is, in Vegas. So, and to be quite frank, there's some talk what the next couple of years look like, and I think said if you're starting coffee shops or whatever the case may be, small businesses, you need to know what you're doing, perform some attack, the best use of your time and your money.
Information downloaded into your brain back pretty quickly. When spend $7,000 on training that you might not.
certification after route, or you can go you doing the enlisted route. It's boots on the ground. In the security is the same way, so you can get past the filters. But if you already have, because they really need to know what you know, you need to increase your pay. Having some certification will make you to do the work.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely starting as a one guy IT side. For me, like IT help desk kind of company. However, when I'm bidding, that SANS certification or a repertoire with that client, because of the work that you're able to produce.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, there's
times to acquire or times to flex.
Yeah. Legs industry. This happens to a lot of us, where you might hit a plateau, or you might hit a point where you're like, and that might be reading the documentation. The next, just a higher level of that, the more commercial level is for like your journey, I guess.
And I think we wanting to learn as a cool experience that we've got, and sometimes certifications as you can, just because that's kind of the mindset that you're like financial institutions who, and sometimes it's required that you go through exam. Sometimes it's a matter of to start. Really is, and sometimes certification, not having to take a 3-day.
Do you need it to operate in the industry? No. Way to provide, if you have a way to show the world that what's in a blog about it, can you share your knowledge? that's the whole purpose, is to show the certification.
Right.
Somebody who's just getting in to take a class and learn something, whether it be virtual,
is probably the one like intro.
Yes.
And so a lot of people
Network Plus.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. If you can, all of the different important aspects, great, like amazing. And then people go after certain vendor certification. I want to do, and then slowly acquire my router platform of choice, my switching certs. So the Linux, and that would be on the red team, your toes in the water kind of thing.
Yeah. And you were talking about security and took without any. When I did that, I had 3 to 4 years of practical real world experience.
Sure.
I've always had the mindset of, if you can afford it, go in, take it, understand what they're looking for on the in the books that they that they have are not valuable information, and understanding how to pass a test are two different things.
Right. That's why a lot of exams are going practical.
Yeah. Was like G Suite certification stuff, just because what I needed it for, particular, go in and do this, go in and do that, and it's recorded throughout the whole way G Suite. That's going to, have A, B, C, and D. And that's what they're going to be looking for to pass the exam, style, as opposed to, the ocean or, 200 question exam.
150 questions and a mile once you're done with that test. But having the practical experience, if it's something you do every day, then you're going to do really well in the test field. It's very important.
Right.
New instance, but I'm going to walk you through step by step. So Amazon does have close to 200 different services. You're not going to know all of them. And it is a hard test.
I got to take that shit at the end of the year.
Yeah. Essentially, it's how to launch a virtual server in the cloud.
Yeah, and EC2, and use that virtual machine on Windows or Linux or FreeBSD, another operating system.
People out there getting into this, you're only really going to be focusing on two, which is going to be where you're storing that data, that you're generating.
So when we're up here, you have to go to the Amazon Marketplace, and then this is where you see a lot of different types. GUI would support. So essentially, it's somebody else who basically repackage,
get in and do things.
But you can see, in order to run it, they are. So I'm going to select Kali. That's why the cost is 0. The cost on this side, the Kali itself. So for instance, if we were looking at the T2 Nano, it will cost, start getting into those. This is where it asks for the instance type. We're going to pick the free tier. Now, we can click on review and launch, but we're going to go step by step. So next, configure instance detail. How many instances you want to run? You can say 1, 2, 10, 20, 50. It will ask you which VPC to deploy it in. It's a virtual private cloud. So think of it as a whole network that is, basically its own IP range, its own internet is completely separate. That the VPC by itself is free. However, there are some options that if you poke around will cost some money. Amazon, when you create a brand new account, they only allow you to have 5 VPC per region. You can request an increase my limit, and then open the ticket, and a couple of hours later it says it's been granted. Here it says automatically assign a public IP. You do want to have that on, because otherwise your Kali. Everything else is default, but we can go over those. If the 12, if you get into the habit of putting tags, is very important. I say project, so you can say project. You can say, I don't know, restaurant. So later on, and then it will generate a report, and then that way it's all, whether it's for your finances. The next thing is to create a security group. So think of a security group as it's that you set up. because we're doing Kali in the cloud, we need to SSH in. But if we also have be accessible as well.
Right. If you're using Kali to have like a open, you have to know what services are going to run on the Kali box to be able to allow access. You can get people in this office that I'm doing an assessment for, then just whitelist that one.
The issue is if you put a DNS and then it's wide open, that resolves to
you're susceptible to a reflection attack. Sure, absolutely. So if a lot of times when you're troubleshooting an Amazon instance, one of the first things
like firewall rules almost.
Yes.
Yeah, which we can get into later. Definitely something for a more advanced class.
It's on Amazon. The only way to get in is through SSH. And in order to show up the list of the key that you have, if you don't, you can click here, create a new key pair. I'm going to say Cal. Cal is super, super, super important with computer and to work super well. So this is launching, and it's going to be up in a few. Okay, so it looks like I've got a public IP for it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show up my terminal. Connect first. Let me... Usually when it's ready, there's like a little connect here, pairing itself. Let me show you guys the...
So it downloaded to kind of utilize that file?
Yes, so basically the P
smoosh all together. And we can talk about the other ways that you might not even need SSH.
Make a directory. It's make a folder, and then CD is change directory, and correct. Kali directory, correct. And then so ls last command.
Now the thing is, in order to connect through SSH on Amazon, the permission needs to be correct. So if I do a ls-am certification that might be useful, like the Linux, one of those Linux Plus one, which is me, has a permission to read and write. The group, which is
sure, it's
Amazon
called a
needs
private key for a reason.
Right. So you need to make sure that file. If I do an ls now you can see that it only allows us to do read. The next step would be to create this little incantation. That's if you're on the Mac, you tell it, hey, this is the key I want to use. So that's like this, and then on root this, and then it should allow me to connect. Now, please log in as user Kali rather than root. Okay, so they want me to log in as Kali. So,
and just, I mean, utilizing the that basically certificate as our path.
If any kind of a Kali commands, it's all available wherever there. A macro T2 macro.
Is there? Are we pretty much safe to do pretty much anything that we want? It'll be slower, but
12 months, right, Andy?
Right.
So you have 12 months for free tier, which means you won't pay more if you exceed a budget. So if you set a budget of $20, and this is that manually.
On
one of our next streams, we'll do just a quick briefer on setting up billing alerts and things like that.
If we want, we can show how we would.
Off of this, it's time to kill it. What do we do?
As instance tape stop essentially just shuts it down, and then you stop paying for it, and then if you turn it back on, it remember that instance is destroyed, and then it's gone.
Our terminate is like lighting the car on fire. One of them is like a temporary thing. You
go on to like a higher grade tier, and we stop that instance. Are we
staying the night in the hotel? You're going to pay money, but if you're sleeping at home, you're not going to pay money. With a mint on the pillow and all of the things are in the right spot, That's your hard drive, the volume. So if we go set it so that when you terminate the instance, it terminates the drive alongside of it. But and who likes to do what?
Now, here's another thing that when you do it manually, the cleanup is things laying around, such as that security group that we created. So
Correct.
we need to here it is. So that security group is still there. So
We talk about why we would host Kali in the cloud. I mean, obviously, you're not really going to get that for us. You're pretty much stuck to command line. So with Kali, you're not really going to
dependencies and start the X server, XCFE, like loud, like if you're doing it that way, you're kind of doing it wrong in my.
Setting it up so that if I've got instances and also a way.
Another simple reason as to why you are allocated to AWS versus the IP address that are allocated from your ISP. A lot of ISP, Comcast, Cox, they see that you're running port 8. So that's why you would need to have in the cloud, you can run an HTTP because that all rules or some spam internet. Why is that port
pass like the sniff test on anybody who's potential Comcast connection or
okay, and situations where attacks, so you just can't even run them. Of our version of Hack the Box, which is to kind of hack into. Want to make changes to your home network.
Yeah.
About tonight is Defcon and the talks that are running.
A couple of Mac OS security all the time, and then just like some fire for them to put out, live and let live. Like if you can find how to deploy a plist, or hacking Tesla or hacking. I'm always kind of fascinated to see those like big events and some Apple stuff.
Defcons in the black hat, but people you kind of like workshop it on the cheap. Like it may cost.
Keeping B-sides is the gate is the little talks that you don't even know.
You don't need anything, but that's pretty much everything. There's a lot more Apple, and it kind of starts around 11 a.m. But it's gone apple picking attacks and how to defend against them. Talk buildings with X or KNX Saturday. That's happening. You kind of see a lot in corporate domain /Steve, Alto and Sonic Wall firewalls. Monday as well. That looks interesting. There's this one that's actually really interesting, which is what a lot of like antivirus, exploits. Scanning those QR codes with various different devices and seeing when it does happen. With just a little bit of looking, not all of it, the Saturday and Sunday about, by all means, reposts and things of that nature, so we can kind of get a group discussion. Yeah. So we'll probably be back. I think it's this camera right here. Discuss some of how to utilize the Bash Bunny. Great rest of the night. I know it's a Sunday, it's a shorter stream, but